Whatever happened to that smile on your face? Whatever happened to get you so out of place? Trying so hard to be a man.
Hey, what's going on? Justin here from Modern Mixing, and today we have something special for you. I'm doing a little interview / tutorial with my good friend Ghislain Brind'Amour, or as most people know him by G. And did I say that right?
Yeah, that sounds perfect, man.
Sweet. So I asked you to send me a couple records because I wanted to do something like this for a long time, and you sent me a couple of them, and this one kind of stood out to me. And I guess it was like a folk style record. Like, what would you call the genre or whatever?
I guess it falls into like the folk pop sort of like hybrid crossover kind of thing because it is like stylistically folky, but it's catchy enough to be a pop record, I guess.
Yeah, cool. So I guess there's a few things that stood out to me, but the one thing that I appreciated about the record is that it didn't sound like you overmixed it, or didn't sound like you were letting your sort of ego get in the way of, the mix, and you kind of just let it be natural, which I really, really respect. And I'm not saying that the mix didn't sound good, because it sounded really, really good, but it sounds like you just kind of let the music do the speaking, and then you kind of just, did your thing around that. Is that fair to say, or is there a lot of processing going on that maybe I just can't hear because it's so transparent?
It's fair enough to say. I mean, the whole arrangement when you hear the song, it's pretty simple, although there is a lot of guitar stuff going on, and but essentially, like, all the parts sort of fit together nicely, and I didn't have to fight with anything. So I guess, yeah, the way you said it, I didn't overdo it. It just sort of everything sort of flowed naturally and gave the end result, which people seem to be digging. So that's great.
Nice. Another thing was the vocals, and they sounded really clean. And I mean, overall, like, the balance of the mix, I thought was basically spot on. Like, can you explain a little bit about, like, the vocals, like what you did as far as, like, the processing? Because again, like I said, that part in particular, anyways, it really stood out. So, or anything that you want to share about that'd be great.
Yeah, well, it all started at the source. I mean, he's a good singer. That always helps. And we recorded the vocals together over a pretty big studio here in Montreal called the Planet Studios. So they got all the fancy mics and pre's and all that. So, like, the whole singer to vocal chain was all done quite well. There was minimal editing going on. He tuned whatever he wanted, whatever he saw fit. And as far as processing, I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. There's a bit of, we'll go into detail there, but, a bit of EQing, a bit of compression, and a little sweetening on the top there, and then a little bit of, reverb delay stuff that's all pretty common on, like, pop records that we hear today. So there, nothing mind blowing. I didn't, like, go out of the box. I didn't go do anything remote, like, super special for
so everything was done in the box on this record.
100% in the box. Yes.
Nice. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, man. That's what I like to say.
So like, okay, so maybe can you bring up the lead vocal, and maybe kind of talk about the processing on that in particular, maybe like what you did to maybe get the vocal to sit, like what plugins were you using, like it's probably been a while since you did this mix, but if you can kind of recall what was going through your head. I can even see a little bit of automation going on there, so maybe you can talk about some of that stuff.
Definitely. Well, we'll start with the basic approach, I guess, leveling it out. And so you start with my famous DigiDesign trim plugin there, just to get it down to like a decent level. He's a bit of a dynamic singer, and I'm not one to compress too heavily when recording and stuff like that. It's more for color if I use a compressor. I think I used an LA2A on this one, if I remember correctly, while tracking, but probably like a dB max of gain reduction. It's really just for the color.
So the trim plugin, sorry to interrupt you here, but the trim plugin itself, like, are you automating the trim as you're kind of like
No. So this is just purely before everything, just to set like the level of all the tracks. I have pretty much the trim on pretty much every track, every audio track on the session, and it's just to bring the levels to a more conservative, like, peak value, I guess. And then from there I go in and process.
Okay. So this is kind of like the trim's like your kind of your gain staging sort of thing.
That would be correct, exactly. So I gain
Okay.
stage with the trim plugin to get everything sort of just leveled out the way that, so it's not too loud, and I can kind of go in and work my magic. And so after that, my old trusty Steven Slate virtual console. I took the Neve one on this one. I usually audition them all and kind of see what fits in the context of the song. The Neve adds a little bottom, adds a little top, and stuff like that. So it's kind of, it's a little bit of instant gratification, and you kind of work through it on that. And then from there, usual.
Hold on a second. Is the Slate one though? Like, is the before and after like dramatic?
Well, tell you what, I will bypass everything here. One second, I'll need to put this into my vocals here, and I'll bypass everything except for the Slate. And I mean, it's subtle. I won't lie. It's the Slate thing is more of a cumulative effect of everything. But for sure, if I solo it here, and I'll play a couple lines without it.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
And then I'll play a couple lines with it on, same lines here. So.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
But it definitely adds, a little bottom, kind of sweetens out the highs a little bit on the track. It's all subtle, but it gives it a bit of, helps you place it in the track a little different. But once you start stacking these VCCs in different modes with the bus and stuff like that, that's where you kind of really see it shine there. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Excellent. So after that, a little subtractive EQ going on, and I actually kind of that boxy area. The blue is so probably around 518. I'm cutting here, and that's probably where it gets a little boxy.
Is that, it looks like that's a shelf filter that you use?
Actually, I'm using a combination here. I have a bell with a relatively wide Q. Mm-hmm. And then I'm shelving out around 125 just to kind of, it was a little muddy still down there. So I kind of just to give it a little hand there. And I'm cutting actually pretty aggressively here. I know you have your high pass filter speech there and stuff like that. But this one I'm actually going around 96. But some of that is also because of the room in which I recorded the vocals in, for sure had an impact on that, because it was a bit of a more open, resonating room that I not horrible, but it had a little bit extra, and I wanted to get rid of it. And I'm also actually pushing a little bit of 15K with a high shelf, and I think that was just to kind of just get it where I wanted it, like how I wanted it to hear without the sweetener on top, kind of, so to speak, though. So that was my initial EQ. And I think I must have fiddled with this a few times. I tried a couple. This is always usually one of my first ones that I try on vocals, and then I might try other ones and then come back and tweak it and stuff like that. So unfortunately I don't have all those those previous attempts there, but this is kind of what I left with it. So I think it worked out in the end. And
maybe you want to just do a before and after on that one too?
Absolutely.
Just to see the effect.
I'll give you the same lines as before. So this is without it.
Whatever.
Oh, sorry. Solo it.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
And then with it on.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
So I think here you'll probably hear more drastic sort of difference in the actual vocal tone.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, it's a soloed vocal right now, and I left all the effects off, so it's like dry, but everything always in context to like the music that's going around it too, right? So
is it possible to maybe play that with the track, because that's probably you'll notice like the most amount of change because of all the EQing that's going on?
So I'll play it with the track. I'm going to mute my parallel because I also have a parallel vocal track going on there. So cool. I'm going to mute that for now, and I will play without it. And you'll hear it again. All the effects, the delays and verbs and stuff, that's all off right now. So I'll just hear it for what it is, essentially.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
Same lines with the EQ.
Whatever happened that smile on your face?
Um, Great. So once I got that EQ going and
Okay, hold on. Just
yeah,
sorry, I'm not taking you off track here, but
yeah,
there's a lot of people that have this misconception with like clipping and stuff like that inside the box, and obviously you don't want to slam your mix bus or whatever, but I see some of your red lights kind of lighting up there a little bit, so maybe you can kind of explain, like on the vocal on your parallel compression and stuff. I see like the lights are lighting up.
oh, okay,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so maybe you can explain, like, is it okay to clip inside the box? And if you're hitting the reds on the track, maybe why is that not a bad thing, especially when everything gets summed to, the two bus?
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, with pleasure. Look, ultimately, I use my ears when it comes to that stuff. If like, because the clip light on Pro Tools and most DAWs in general, I mean, they're just telling you that you're passing they're sample accurate, right? So you're just passing the headroom of whatever sample. So if I hear it and it doesn't sound distorted but I mean, like this particular track does have a little bit of saturation on it from the plugin that I have on it. I'm kind of driving it hard. It's kind of a desired effect, but essentially, the best thing I can tell you is to use your ears. If the red light clips, but you don't hear clipping, then in my book you're fine. So I think.
And I mean, like with a 32-bit float and everything like that, as long as your master bus is not clipping, then you probably shouldn't notice any clipping inside your DAW. I guess unless your plugin is like you're driving the output of your plugin's not designed to limit or compress the output or whatever.
Exactly.
Then you'll probably hear something. But I just wanted to kind of like let people know about that, because I think some people think that if it touches the red, like they're committing a sin or something like that. So
Yeah. No, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I barely look at those things because it's really like what I hear. So if I hear it if it's weird or if it sounds distorted, then I'll go investigate. But if it doesn't, I mean, I just go with the flow, and just
cool.
let it be.
Yeah. Well, anyways, thanks for that. So yeah, sorry to get you off track there,
No,
but
all good, man, all good. So after I got the subtractive and a little sweetener on the top and stuff, just to, like I said, it was more to get the vocal kind of. This is how I want. This is how I hear it in my head. This is like what I want. Now the vocal itself is it's pretty dynamic. It's in a few places. Add a little compressor. In this particular circumstance, I'm using the McDSP 6030. This is their rendition of like an 1176, which is, if you read my article, I love that compressor. And this one is pretty cool. Not the most colorful emulation of an 1176, but it definitely works. Like it reacts very similar to the hardware, which is nice. It has like a McDSP twist, so if you're familiar with their plugins, you'll kind of know what I mean about that. They always have their sort of way of making their products sound and work in a certain way. So it's very pleasant for that. And I mean, look, we can listen to it. I'll solo the vocal.
But like, can you like explain like the settings? Like why did you set the attack and release? Like, what were you trying to get from the plugin?
Soloing, of course. Ratio. I'm not a big ratio guy. It's around 4. That's my starting point, usually 4, and it's rare that I go much higher. I tend to go lower, actually, to be honest. But so I kind of go there, and so the attack for me was set display. Again, this was some trial and error, but it kind of goes with the rhythm of the vocals. So I want enough vocal to come in before the unit reacts, and then I kind of like a quicker release on things because I want it to come back to it not being compressed. And so the attack, I have to fiddle with it and get it to a point where it feels good. It's super subjective, and that's like, compressor settings are not, in my book, scientific. It's really just kind of, I feel it. Oftentimes I'm not even looking, and I'm just moving it up and down until it kind of just sits right as far as where the compressor starts reacting. And then the release, again, for vocals, I tend to like it fast. I like the needle to come back and then kind of just let it in. So it just kind of seems a little more natural that way for me.
So then are you, when you're setting your attack and release, then are you trying to, I'm trying to make sense of this. Are you trying to like shape, like you're just trying to shape the front of the sound as much as you can to kind of like to maybe make it a little bit sharper, the transients, so that they can poke through a little bit better? Or is it just trying to smoothen out the sound? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Essentially more of a smoothing out process with this first level of compression. Because if you put your attack fast, it'll start compressing as soon as the vocal, right? Like, and obviously these are milliseconds or whatever. So yeah, exactly. I want the vocal to come in a little bit. I still want it to be natural. So kind of slack off on your attack time a bit. And once it starts compressing, I want it to come back down relatively soon. So that's why. So yeah, to me, it provides kind of a smoother sort of feeling to the vocal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, you know. So, and like I said, 4-to-1, that's a ratio setting, and I'm not a crazy compressor guy. Like I don't like choking a vocal to death or anything like that. So if we play it, let's see what's happening here with the needle.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face? Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
So you should be able to hear the sound a little rounder and a little more controlled, I guess more in pocket, so to speak, with the vocal. And after that, I see I have another one. Another 6030 compressor. This is the this one here is like their LA2A, but on limit mode. And this was just to, I guess, just that sort of, peak limit the vocals a little bit and stuff like that. I guess hit them a little harder. And again, not super colorful, but works extremely well. I really like this plugin for what it is. And I'll show you what it's doing on the meter here.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face? Whatever happened?
Just tickling it, and again, it's just whatever peaks the compressor, being that the attack was slower. Whatever is left off, it's sort of just rounding it off, but in a different way because this is more of like a limiter LA2A type thing. So, yeah, Any questions on this one or?
Yeah, no. So that you're definitely not using for color. That's just kind of like whatever the other guy wasn't able to capture. This kind of just
pretty much
finishing touches on.
Exactly, but it works differently than this guy, right? So like the sort of mechanics of the unit is different, and so this is what I was looking for to sort of just top off the peaks a little bit when it came to
So then again, it's for like a smoothing factor, or does it tighten the vocal up at all, or does it kind of put it more in the pocket? Like what's the end result with this one?
More for pocket, just to kind of keep it in check. Anything that's sort of like that just peaks out a little bit, it's just gonna tuck it in a little bit, and it's really just for that pocket thing. There is a tone. All these different settings all have their own little sound to them, so that goes into play also when selecting it. So, but essentially, it was just like whatever peaks were sort of left by the smoother compressor, I'm sort of catching them with this one.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, man, absolutely. This one here, the C1, this is just that mid-range sort of like, lock that mid-range a little bit. Because especially with like pop records, I find that, you want that vocal up and you sort of have to find ways to make it more present without necessarily jacking the volume. So this one works great. We've spoken about it many times.
Yeah, I think that's probably like one of the few plugins I can't live without,
Yeah, no, definitely a key. And in this particular circumstance, to the vocal sound, it's just like it helps a lot. And this will sort of bring it up. It'll help bring it up front, without having to crank the volume, and then people feeling that the vocal is too loud. So that's this guy's fun. And again, it just kind of smoothens out the mid range, because it's compressing it. Make it up a little bit there, but nothing too crazy. We'll do a quick A/B here without.
Whatever happened? That smile on your face.
And with it.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
Nothing crazy on the gain reduction, but just enough to round out that mid range a little bit, so that I can, if I need to go push it a little bit, which I'm pretty sure I did, it won't be so like strident and aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that goes for that. The settings, low ratio, 3.26 to 1. The attack here is relatively fast because I kind of want to attack that section good enough. And then the release, you know what? I think this is the stock release. I don't think I touched it, and I think it was
50?
fine. Yeah, 50. Yeah. I think it was fine for whatever I needed to do. And the frequency I'm attacking is 2,229. And that's where I sort of hit the sidechain button here, and you can kind of sweep through it and see what section. And let's take a listen to that soloed, and just grab a listen to what exactly I'm compressing here.
To that smile on your face.
It's a slightly more aggressive section of the vocal, so the low compression helped a little bit. And so do you have any questions on this, or?
No, I think you explained that one pretty good.
Awesome. I'll get, every now and then I'll get one right. So, and lastly, my buddy here.
And this is the one that you rave so much about all the time when you talk to me.
I enjoy it for vocals. It works really well on a lot of things, but I do enjoy it on vocals. So here, essentially, I use it just to sweeten out the vocal. It's not surgical by any means, but it definitely has a nice color, and just like the top end is wonderful on it, because you can drive it pretty hard on the top end, and it's rare that it'll be aggressive. So that airband thing that Mr. MAAG invented is pretty good. And here, just boosting a little 10K, little 2.5. It's a shelf that they have here, and that's sort of like, helps me sweeten out that mid-range that I was compressing with the C1 SC comp from Waves there. And I know I told you at 650 here, the 650 here, I'm actually a couple notches, 2 notches on the 650. And it's very musical on vocals, and it's just like a wide band, bell-shaped sort of band there, so it's cool. And just a little bottom end, 40 hertz, again, wide band, one little notch, just to sort of give it a little presence on the vocal. For this one, I'm going to solo just so you hear the difference. So obviously without it.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
Hopefully when I unbypass it here, you'll hear the magic.
Whatever happened to that smile on your face?
Yeah, so they're just a little sweetener, just to make it a little more expensive sounding in a way. That's what I say. So, and that was it. Yeah. Any questions on this? Or?
No, I think you did a pretty good job on that one. But I think I just do want to get into the effects. But what I'm thinking is that since we've kind of went on pretty long with this one, what we'll do is maybe we'll come back for a round 2.
Okay, cool.
And then we'll show all the effects and everything you use, and like the parallel processing and even the automation. And I think that we should be able to get enough into the next video. So as long as you're cool with that, then
absolutely, of course,
we can come back. But yeah, so I guess for anybody that's watching, hopefully G was able to get his points across, and you guys learned something there, because definitely every time I talk to G, even if it's just a personal conversation or whatever, he definitely always passes something on to me, so I definitely learned something from him. So even in this tutorial here, I think I've learned something myself. So but anyway, so the next time we'll come back, we'll do the effects, the automation, all that good stuff. But yeah, until then, see you next time.
Later, guys.
Get on.